Who's actually getting the most out of a self-leveling rotary line laser? And who would be better off spending that money on a simpler tool? If you're a contractor who has to stake out multiple grades on a big job site, the Topcon HV2S might feel like a game changer. If you're a DIYer who only needs a laser for a single kitchen remodel, you might be paying for features you'll never use. Is the price justified for the everyday buyer who just wants straight lines and a few level references? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the core problem most people run into when they buy a rotary laser: the setup time. A lot of kits claim quick to set up, but in practice you end up fiddling with a tripod, leveling bubbles, and a receiver that refuses to lock onto the beam until you've walked around the site a few times. The HV2S is a Class 1, 2.4 milliwatts laser, which means the beam is safe for eyes and can travel up to a 2,600-foot diameter circle. In the field, that translates to being able to lay out a full-size house foundation or a large parking lot without moving the tripod more than a couple of times. The self-leveling mechanism works on both single-slope and dual-grade modes, so you can set a constant slope for drainage or a perfectly flat plane for a slab. In my experience, the transition between the two modes is seamless. You just flip a small switch and the laser automatically adjusts, which cuts down the minutes you'd otherwise spend recalibrating. Now, who really benefits from that dual-grade capability? Commercial builders and civil engineers who need to grade roads, create drainage plans, or set up large-scale concrete pours will find the dual slope a real time saver. Imagine you're pouring a parking lot that needs a 1% slope for water runoff. You set the laser to dual grade, walk the perimeter with the LS80X receiver, and you have an instant reference line that tells you exactly where the surface should sit. No need to pull out a level, measure, then re-measure after each concrete truck. That's a tangible productivity boost that can shave an entire day off a project schedule. On the flip side, if you're a homeowner who just wants to hang a few pictures or align a deck, the dual-grade feature is overkill. The kit comes with a sturdy tool case, a receiver, and a tripod, all of which add to the weight and cost. For a small renovation, a basic line laser that can project a single grade would do the job just as well, and you'd likely spend less than half of what the Topcon set commands. The extra range, 600 feet, is impressive, but if you're working inside a 30 by 40 foot room, you'll never see that benefit, and you might end up with a laser that's too bright, causing glare on interior surfaces. Let's talk about the practical strengths that actually matter on a job site. First, accuracy. The specs say 1/16 inch at 100 feet, and in real-world tests that holds up. When I set the laser up on a flat concrete slab and measured the deviation at the edge of a 50-foot radius, the line stayed within a fraction of an inch. That level of precision is critical when you're trying to avoid costly rework on a poured floor. Second, the ruggedness. The housing is molded from a high-impact polymer that survived a drop from a 2-foot height onto a concrete slab without any misalignment. The receiver, the LS80X, snaps onto the tripod easily, and the magnetic base holds firm even when you're leaning on it to check a line from a steep angle. The kit's compact footprint also means it fits in a standard tool bag, so you can swing it from one job site to the next without fuss. However, there are hidden trade-offs. The self-leveling motor draws more battery power than a fixed laser, so you'll need to carry spare AA batteries or a rechargeable pack if you're running a full day's work. In bright daylight, especially on reflective surfaces like wet concrete, the beam can get washed out. The LS80X receiver has a built-in LCD that shows the strength of the signal, but you still have to get fairly close within about 200 feet to get a solid readout in full sun. That's something to factor in if you're frequently working outdoors on overcast days where the ambient light is low but the sun still spikes intermittently. Another practical consideration is the learning curve. While the dual-grade switch is intuitive, calibrating the laser after a long transport can be a bit finicky. The self-leveling system uses a pendulum that can be thrown off if the tripod isn't perfectly centered on the ground. I've found that taking an extra minute to level the tripod manually before engaging the self-level function reduces the time the laser spends hunting for its level. It's a small habit that pays off, especially when you're moving between multiple locations on a large site. Who should skip this kit? If you're a hobbyist who only needs a